Now, how do we really strengthen our souls? Quran says over here that strengthen your soul, because this is the more we give, as we say, in the way of Allah, the more our relationship with Allah and Islam is strengthened out. I mean, this is where our investment is. Wherever our investment is, that's where our heart is going to be. I bought some stocks in one of the markets in USA. I think it was probably NASDAQ or somewhere. And I used to, not a very large sum, but whatever it was, every morning you would get up and actually just go and log on and see what's the value of the stock. Because your investment was there, so therefore you were always logging on to see. And then the day you sold it, after that, I don't even know where it gone. So I think that's the model that you need to see. Wherever we invest, that's where our heart is going to be. If we are investing for the hereafter, that's where our heart is going to be. If we are investing in the stock markets of this world and the plots of this world, I'm saying that it's not disallowed, but clearly that does not build the relationship that's expected with Islam and with Allah. If we want that to be done, we must spend in the way of Allah, we must spend in the way of Islam. And then also don't expect any return, and don't have any bitterness in your heart even after you are giving, because your deal is with Allah. Whether you give or more or less, that doesn't matter. And sadaqah is something that is there, which is going to quench the sins that we keep doing it over here. So therefore, as you can see, we are looking at these ayat which are all talking about charity, sadaqah, khairat. I am strongly encouraged. And again, Muslims are also, taught not to publicize them or insult them or cause pain to someone who is giving charity. And the next ayat is also giving you an example. So this is ayat number 266. أَيَوَدُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن تَكُونَ لَهُ جَنَّةٌ مِّن نَخِيلٍ وَأَعْنَابٍ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ لَهُ فِيهَا مِن كُلِّ الثَّمَرَاتِ فَأَصَابَهُ الْكِبْرُ وَلَهُ ذُرِّيَّةٌ ضُعَفَاءُ فَأَصَابَهَا إِعْصَارٌ فِيهِ نَارٌ فَاحْتَرَقَتْ كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمُ الْآيَاتِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And does any one of you like that he should have a garden of dates and vines with streams flowing beneath it? He has all kinds of fruit and old age has overtaken him, and his children are not strong, and it is struck by a fierce fire, whirlwind, and it is consumed by the fire, and thus Allah makes clear to you His signs so that you may reflect. So again, an example being given over here, good deeds done, green garden of good deeds done at young age. That's why you say, if you have a good deed, if you can do it today instead of tomorrow, do it today, because it's just like a plant. A good deed is just like a plant. The earlier you plant the seed, the earlier the harvest is going to come. So don't wait for end of the month or tomorrow or one after from now. If you can do a good deed a minute earlier, try and do a minute earlier, because like a seed, it's going to grow a little more in that one day. Now, so good deeds being done in young age, someone does lots of good deeds, and then when he becomes old, it's almost like a gardener. The example being given over here, because this is so much close to nature, we can all relate to this. Someone who has a garden and he plants all the fruits inside it, and it's got dates and vineyards in it, and it's got stream flowing beneath it, and so therefore now he's becoming old. And when he becomes old is a time when you cannot work as hard as you would have worked when you were young. And it's a critical time, and this is a time to really protect our good deeds. A lot of us have reached that stage of age. We have lived our lives, we have now reached an old age, and I think this is such a critical time to protect our good deeds, because when old age comes in, your temper sometimes becomes bad. You may be very even-tempered when you are young, but because of weakness and other things, old age brings this bad temper. And although, it doesn't mean that when we become old, it's not our right to become bad-tempered when we become old. But this is a warning for old parents and everyone. Sometimes they would blame the servants. Oftentimes you'll see that people, when after retirement, when they are home, who have worked all their life and now they are home, and they begin to blame servants for everything that's missing. And Quran says this is like a charity which will become void and rejected. If a person has done all these good deeds in his life, and then in the end, when old age is there, he really destroys them. And you can see how hopeless this person will feel at this time, because now he's old and he's unable to rebuild whatever investment he has done. Imagine you were working in a foreign country and you have all your investments and they are growing, and your time to go back to your own country is now fixed. You're going back. On the day that you're going back, you see all the investment, the stock market falls and there's nothing left over. Now you have to go back also, and you have nothing left over. It can be really a hopeless situation. So therefore, similarly, charity which is done, again, or had been done earlier, but you begin to promote it, so therefore then you have no real result for it. So a person who has invested just for worldly benefit, not seeking pleasure of Allah, the end result is zero over here. So this is the example being given over here of a man who works hard, does good deeds, and the fruits of his investments is visible, but in the end everything is destroyed. And now unfortunately he has become so old that he cannot work so hard again, and so therefore all his deeds are destroyed. And I think this is not just a superficial ayat, it's very important, because sometimes people do all the righteous deeds, but in the end they write a will before they leave this world, and that's an injurious will, and so therefore they deprive the legal heirs of their due shares, and as a result, all the good work that they have done is really destroyed. So be careful at when you become old, that you don't have a will which deprives the legal heir of their due shares. You do control your temper, and so that your deeds are not destroyed. In fact, in a hadith, our Prophet ﷺ said, a man does good deeds to the extent that the distance between him and paradise is one arm. He's done so many good deeds in this life that the distance between him and paradise is just one arm. Imagine how close he is. And then he does deeds which pushes him into hellfire. In the end, he does some deeds which pushes him into hellfire. So may Allah actually just, there's again a beautiful prayer, may Allah increase our provisions for us when we are old, and then may Allah also end our life in a state when we are, when we have protected all our good deeds. Now with this, let's move on to the next ayat, which is ayat number 267. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu anfiqu min tayyibati ma kasabtum wa mimma akhrajna lakum min al-ard wa la tayammamul khabitha minhu tunfiquna wa lastum bi'akhidhihi illa an tughmizu fihi wa'lamu anna Allaha ghaniyyun hamid. O you who believe, spend of the good things which you have earned, and of that which we bring forth from the earth for you, and do not aim to spend what is bad from it, when you yourself will not accept with disgust, and know that Allah is free of all wants and worthy of all praise. So again, the encouragement, continuous encouragement in these ayat is to spend, and then here it's not just spending, it's to spend what we love for ourselves. This is what, so Iman walas are asked to have to spend, and the other, and again you can see time and again these ayahs that are coming, nowhere in Quran you will find the adab of taking. When you take from someone, what is the adab? It's all the adab of giving that is being taught to people. Everywhere, it's just the adab, how do you give to people? So this ayat as it begins, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu anfiqu min tayyibati ma kasabtum. Kasab is really a word which is used for earning in this world. Whatever we earn, that's really the worldly thing that is in the world. But here actually it means what is left over after we have given zakat, which means after we have purified our wealth. In fact, there is a hadith which is narrated by Ibn Abbas, which Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, our Prophet ﷺ said, Allah has commanded them to spend from the purest and the finest and the best of their wealth, and prohibited them, or cautioned them from spending from the discarded and the useless provisions, because Allah is pure and good, and He accepts what is pure and what is good. So again, please remember this, that charity is of value if it is given from the wealth which is first and foremost acquired in a halal way. That's first and foremost, it's in an honorable way. Because there is no real concept in Islam which says that, rob Peter to pay Paul. That's not a concept that, you rob someone and do that. There's no kind of Robin Hood style in Islam. This is not Islamic. First, you must have a halal earning, then you can spend it in a halal manner. Again, also the thing that's being taught to us over here is, it's not the leftovers that we do a sadaqah of. It's not the leftover, that whatever we can't eat and whatever is left over, we give it to the servants or to poor people. Or something that's been about to rot in the fridge, you say, no, now go and give it to some fakir on the road, because it's just about to rot and I can't eat it. I think the instruction in Quran is to give food freely. Strong instruction is to feed people. Allah will really give barakat in when we give what is good and what we like for ourselves, including I think even simple things like inside our homes. Sometimes people keep different utensils for their maids and for themselves. So they'll have a separate glass for them and a separate plate for them and a separate plastic spoon for them, and for them they will be eating in the finest of the crockery that's available. I think that's something that Quran wants us to be conscious of. So therefore, this is something that is being said over here in this ayat, and it's extremely important for us to keep in mind that you must first put yourself into the situation. Imagine somebody giving you something that you are giving to someone. Imagine you being on the receiving end, and imagine how you're going to feel. If you feel insulted because of what you are receiving, I think from the leftover, then I think that's something that you must keep in mind. You must give, if you are giving for the sake of Allah, give the best that you can possibly give. What you like for yourself, that's what you must give for the sake of Allah. In fact, the next para that we're going to start, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ, that you cannot attain righteousness. لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ, you cannot attain righteousness unless you spend out of that which you love. That's something. So what you love, if you can give part of that for the sake of Allah, only then you will be able to achieve righteousness. This is an ayat from Surah Al Imran. So to dedicate something in the way of Allah which is tainted, which is no good, this is really dishonoring Allah. If you are giving for the sake of Allah, often in clothes for ourselves on Eid we buy the finest. We go to a fashion shop and buy a real classy suit for ourselves, and then for the sadaqah that we are giving for our servants, we buy the poorest of the quality, and we go to the bazaars where you get all these things in large quantity, and you buy the poorest of the cloth for the clothes of the children, for the servants' clothes. I think this is something that needs to be kept in mind. People sometimes do sadaqah of things that they want to discard. So you have worn this, I've worn this now kurta for 5 years, and now I feel I'm getting tired of it, and even the color is fading out, and I say, let me give it to my servant as a sadaqah. I mean, that doesn't make sense, because if you are doing for the sake of Allah, imagine that, Allah says above the hand of the one who asks, there is a hand of Allah. Imagine we giving it to Allah. You can imagine that, how dreadful that would be. The someone who has given everything to us for his sake. When we are giving, then we give some things which are tainted, which are useless, and which are like discarded furniture and old clothes. And this is how people do it to the madrasas, unfortunately. And for the madrasas, we'll have the poorest of the poorest thing. Even the copies and the qaidas that they would give to the madrasa would be on a paper which is slightly better than a toilet paper. That's it. Because for that's the kind of charity that is being done over here. So here, this is what Quran is saying. When you give, please remember you're giving for Allah, and so they'll give Him as whatever you want for your own self. That's the moral that's being taught to us over here. Now the next ayat is an ayat which is telling us of why people actually becomes miser, why we don't spend in the way of Allah. This is the ayat 268. الشيطان يعدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء والله يعدكم مغفرة منه وفضلا والله واسع عليم. And Shaitan threatens you with poverty, and he orders you towards lewdness. I think these are the two things. الشيطان يعدكم الفقر وَيَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ, and he orders you towards lewdness, and Allah promises you forgiveness from Himself and abundance, and Allah is all embracing and all knowing. So if you save money by giving poor quality of goods or not giving at all, Quran says this is not really going to make you, not likely to make you rich. You know, this is sometimes people don't spend because shaitan has threatened them that if you give, you know, you have your children growing up, the fee has to be given, their marriage has to take place, how can you help your relative now, you want to save more. So this is what shaitan actually threatens people with, and this is the reason why people become miser, that they feel that in future they will be needing all this saving. So there's a hadith in which our Prophet ﷺ said, spend on others and Allah will spend on you. The more generous you are, the more magnanimous you are, the more you will be able to, you know, you will find that there is barakat in it. People, sometimes I've seen, people spend millions on entertainment. Millions. They will spend millions on entertainment and marriage and then, you know, even for immorality. And then you ask them for a good cause and they won't have money available for it. You know, I remember that when there was this great earthquake that came over here, I think it was in the late 2009 or 10 or something. No, I think 2005 or 6, yes. And there was this, they wanted to actually collect some money for those people who were victims of that. And people were a bit reluctant to give, and then they had this fashion show arranged. And in this fashion show, they also had this musical program. And then they had these tables. Each table was for 10,000 or probably more. And you would see it was, I mean, there were no seats available. People were selling tickets like, and these are the people who are not willing to give 1,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees, you know, as a charity or a sadaqah. But again, a charity function was organized in which there was fasha and munkar, and you know, lewdness was there, and people were willing to spend. And to comfort their hearts, they were saying they are doing it for the sake of actually helping poor people who have been victims in this charity, in this great earthquake. So this is what actually Shaitan, Quran says, where he threatens you with poverty and he orders you towards lewdness, and Allah promises you forgiveness from himself and abundance, and Allah is aware and all embracing and all knowing. So those people who have been blessed with wealth, obviously Shaitan is going to put this fear of poverty in their hearts. And one way of doing that also is to raise the standard of living of people. You know, one of the great problems of our modern time is because things are so much available in so much plentiful quantity that the more we get, the higher we go up in our corporate ladder, the more our standard of living improves. So you go to from a apartment into a 300 yards house, and then from a 300 to a 500, and then to 1,000, and so you keep raising your standard of living up to an extent that nothing is left for charity. Nothing is left for charity, I think, except worry and anxiety. And I think this is where Islam. That's the reason why, in your personal capacity as an individual, you must actually ensure that you keep your standard of living, your own standard of living, as as simple as possible. As simple as possible. Even if you are extremely rich, so that you have surplus available and it's easy for you to spend. Because the higher your standard of living is, the more you spend on your maintaining of your standard of living, the more difficult it is going to be for you to be able to spend. So I think let's just stop over here, inshallah. Then we're going to start with that number 269, which is also talking of wisdom, and we'll spend some time on this as we move forward. So inshallah, we're going to take a 10 minutes break now, and then come back, and from there on we will complete there. We are just about closing into Surah Al-Baqarah. As you know, this surah has 286 ayahs. Tonight we are going to do up all these ayahs of spending, and then maybe a part of this ayah 275 onward, which is about the opposite side of spending. The opposite of spending, and that is what you call riba, which are the ayahs that we talk about, because one of the great destroyer of making people spend freely in the way of Allah is basically this evil of compounding. The compound interest that is there, because you always look at everything with this perspective that if I spend say 1 million rupees, how much I can earn if I were to invest that at and the interest rates are 6%, 7% and all that. So we're going to talk about that once we finish these ayahs of spending, Inshallah, we'll talk about the ayahs which relate to riba. And this ayat 275 onwards, these are said to be among the last of the ayahs that were revealed on our Prophet ﷺ.